the mental health piece on this. And then Nkem, I want you to kind of lead us off into this. But with all the information, misinformation, pressure from family, stigma, taboo talk, it's easy, very, very easy. And I'm sure all of us can attest to this. And please chime in, anyone, if you want to talk about this. But it's so easy to get anxious about fibroids. And it's so easy to become desperate about doing something about it. And then you kind of lead into, you kind of just pull the covers over your head and you're like, forget it. I don't want to do anything about it because it becomes too much. So what do we think about the mental health piece?
It's a critical piece of the journey, right? Like you were touching upon the anxiety about either the diagnosis of fibroids or just going through the motions and experiencing the symptoms of fibroids. So for me, I was diagnosed in 2015, and there was just so much fear for me around the next steps. And in terms of my symptoms, I think I felt like a loss of control over my body, right? Yeah. There was so much unpredictability when it came to my period. Like I told you before, I would bleed in between periods. Yeah. So I feel like I would always be wearing a pad, like every single day, even when I wasn't on my period, Right. So just that alone would cause so much anxiety within me. I just didn't know where else what to do. I didn't know what to do. And my doctor initially told me that because I only had one fibroid that was on the surface of my uterus, that we could just wait, right? And see whether it progresses, whether it grows. So I didn't have surgery, and instead they put me on birth control pills. And I've been on the birth control pill ever since. I'm on the Depo shot now, but I feel like I'm a slave to the shot, because it provides me with so much relief. But I feel like I'm in bondage, right? So, and that in and of itself, like, I feel like being a slave to something causes a lot of anxiety as well.
And Kim, I am blown away. But every time I hear your story, the fact that we were diagnosed the same year and that you have had the strength to wait it out. Because I was like, definitely one of those desperate people Tanika was talking about earlier. Like as soon as I was diagnosed in 2015, I was like, I said, so what are my options? And my doctor was like, well, you can have surgery. I was like, okay, sign me up. Like I did not wait. I had to wait because it was, the end of the year. I was diagnosed in December 2015, but I had surgery in April. I saw when I could be off of work for a few weeks, and I was like, this is as soon as I can get off, because I didn't have those symptoms of even what you went through with the heavy bleeding, but just knowing what was going on inside of my body, knowing the pain that it had caused me for so many months, like I couldn't deal with it. I couldn't deal with it regularly or mentally. Like I started seeing a therapist right away because it came up with the question about the whole situation about being able to have kids and, what this meant and surgery on my uterus. So of course, like as being a woman from the South that's been raised to be a mother, I feel like that was like something that played heavily on my mental. So I wanted to see a therapist right away, but I have to get them out right away. I've had 2 surgeries now since then, but it definitely was something that I couldn't wait on.
And I think for me, it was just so much fear around getting my uterus cut open. Like I've never had surgery before, never. So it's just so much anxiety about even the thought of going under the knife, being under anesthesia, not knowing whether they go in with the anticipation of removing the fibroids, but they would end up having to take my uterus, for example, to save my life or something. Right. So it's just so much anxiety about that for me.
I think that's another misconception, anxiety. Like we as women, we think of our uterus as this dainty, small, cute little thing, but it is not. It is a soldier, no limit. It's ready to go to war. In the way it changes, when you get pregnant. I mean, that was the last thing I was worried about. I was like, all right, let's get this out. Like, because I do think, you know, as women, although we are all of those feminine, dainty, all of those things, but we are also very strong and we're able to do things, our bodies. I mean, like, even the facts, like, you guys talked about, like, I mean, I remember my iron was like 5 and 6 and stuff. And I'm like, the fact that I'm still walking around, going to work, flying across the country when I am literally bleeding for months, like, just showed me, like, no, I can do this. I'm strong enough to go through this.
We have the gamut of the story. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's why it shows that support is so important, because we can share with each other what each other has gone through, right? And the differences. So we can potentially encourage Nkem, you know, to make the best decision for herself. And if that is not surgery at this point, then so be it. But I think that's what makes this conversation so rich, that we have all experiences and we can really relate to a lot of the things that women are going through. I just wanted to share really quickly, for me, it got really bad with the mental health piece, because I think, and Nkem said it earlier, you feel like your body is out of control and you feel like there is nothing that you can do about it. So that just starts to weigh on you. Yeah. And then in the process, you still have to be a boss woman. You still have to show up. We're still out here dating, married. We're still having to be social with our friends. We still have to, you know, commune with our family members. So all of that does become difficult when you're dealing with fibroids and you are literally in the bathroom, fetal position on the bathroom floor.
You know, I'm one of those, you know, we talk about suffering in silence, and I am certainly one who did just that. And when I saw that story, it certainly made me think a lot about my own personal journey, because for so many years, as you just mentioned, you know, you are that career woman that walks out the door every day and going to your job. And, you know, I'm also an entrepreneur, and on the inside, you have all of this going on. You know, you have this war going on the inside, medically. But on the outside, you are still trying to live day to day. And I know once I reached the phase in my life where I made a decision on how I was going to address my fibroids. And then finally, I walked into this new next phase of my life for the first time without fibroids, because my journey actually started when I was 19. And so I had one of my fibroids removed, one of my ovaries removed due to an ovarian cyst that crushed my ovary. And I was thinking about what you shared earlier, Brandi, because my surgery was what was called an exploratory laparoscopy. The doctor did not know whether or not he was going to take my ovary until the surgery. So I did not know what was going to be what until we come out of 6-hour surgery. And so when we come out, to share with my mother that, you know, Miss Tyler, she has 2 ovaries. The other one is healthy. And I had a dermoid cyst, and she said we were unable to save this ovary. We thought maybe we would try to wedge it together, but the cyst was so heavy that it crushed her ovary, and we were unable to do that, so we had to remove it. But you know what? Dermoid cysts are rare, and it's a 25% chance that she'll ever have that issue again. And so when she's ready to start a family, she'll be ready to start a family. And so, you know, you go on, and here it is. I'm 19 at the time that happens. And then here at 32 at an annual visit, here comes 2 baby fibroids to lead into what would start my 11-year journey. And so, again, I resonated with her story so much because, as you ladies know, now I have moved on from that physical journey, and now I'm here to encourage and empower other women in the same. But it certainly opens up a new eye and a new door to see that really from 19 to 42, I had this war going on the inside. And for the first time in my life, I'm in a phase now where I am not internally fighting. To me, I always, you know, once I learned about what was going on inside of me, I felt like my insides had been completely invaded, and my private space had been completely invaded. And that's how I viewed it. it's a tough space. It is a tough space to be in that journey.
So I know you often talk about living and not dying and choosing to live. And I always, think that's such a powerful statement.
Yeah.
I just love that statement. So can you expound on that?
I can. And so my fibroid journey was 11 years. And it wasn't until the latter that I discovered that the two fibroids that I had were really 10 fibroids. I had no idea that I had endometriosis, that I had adenomyosis as well. I had no idea that I had such an enlarged uterus. And each year as I would go to my annual visit, the doctor always asked me, do you still want to have children? But choosing to live versus dying, I wind up making a very, very difficult decision to have a hysterectomy. Because at the point at which it all came out in the open, how many fibroids I have and how much the endometriosis that I had, my symptoms had become unbearable. My day-to-day lifestyle had changed significantly. And I went through at least 6 months of being constipated. And no cure, nothing from the doctor. You couldn't give me grandmama's cure to try to, relieve myself. It just wasn't working out. And I had to make a decision. And many of the options that we talk about now at 42 and based on my medical scenario at that time, they were difficult to embrace the various options, although we did research them and discuss them. And as my health and my day-to-day started to alter so significantly and deteriorate, I had to make the choice to live or die. Because what I knew is that you could be a physically open living each day and out and about every day with your suit and your briefcase every day, but your insides can certainly be dead. And that's where I thought I was leading to. And after researching and having hours and hours of consultations with my GYN and a second opinion with the surgeon, I had to weigh life or death for myself. I had to weigh my goals, where I was with my life, what I wanted to do in life. And if I were to become a mother, was I going to be healthy enough to become a mother at that point? Because so much had altered. And so in making my decision, as difficult as it was, as painful as it was, I chose to live. And that's for me what choosing to live versus dying was for me.